Welcome to where we give a short review of a product or service. We're no experts, just everyday schlubs with an opinion that hopefully you'll find helpful.
Today we do our 30-day review of the GoPro Hero 10 and see how it stacks up against the Hero 7.
Which of my 2 cents will it get? I'm your host, Nobby Wheeler, and this is my 2 cents.
What's up, everybody? About 30 days ago, I picked up the GoPro Hero 10, and I wanted to kind of give a review of what I've done with it over the last 30 days and compare it to the GoPro Hero 7, because that was the last version of the Hero that I had. I haven't had the 8 or the 9. So I kind of wanted to put this video together, so if anyone has an older model and was thinking about upgrading, then maybe we can kind of go through this together and I can show you what I found and what I've compared to, and you guys can make a decision on whether this is going to be the right camera for you. I've kind of broken this video up into chapters, so if there's anything specific that you want to check out or go to, you can skip to each of those little segments without having to watch the whole video. So let's dig in. So the first thing I looked at was the time-lapse and time-warp feature. Resolution-wise, I found they were pretty much identical. The one main difference, and this will probably come up more than often between the Hero 10 and the Hero 7, is that the Hero 10 now has a feature called horizontal leveling, which the Hero 7 does not. You can enable that feature during the time warp, and it makes a huge difference. As you can see, when I'm walking up the street, I'm actually kind of tilting the camera side to side to see if there's any movement, and in the 7 you can visibly see it, but in the Hero 10 you do not. So the next thing I wanted to look at was the resolution between the Hero 10 and the Hero 7. The 10 now goes up to 5.3K, which I think the Hero 9 might have went to 5K. The Hero 7 only goes to 4K. What does this mean for the average videographer? Well, I think very few people are actually just going to shoot in 5.3K, so I just kind of wanted to compare the two. And between 4K, they look pretty good. Everything kind of looks the same. The one thing that I will give the edge to with the Hero 10 going to 5.3K is its ability to crop when you're working in a lower resolution. In this example here, as you can tell, as I zoom in on the bark of the tree, at the 5K zoom versus the 4K zoom, the 4K is on the left, the 5.3K is on the right. You can tell it's sharper than what the 4K is when I crop in at that level. So that's actually a cool feature. So here's where I think the Hero 10 really shines, and this is in the Hypersmooth category, the Stabilization. The Hero 7 was one of the first GoPros that actually came out with what they were calling Hypersmooth. It was Hypersmooth 1.0. Obviously now, 4 generations later, this is the Hypersmooth 4.0 on the Hero 10. I always thought that the Hero 7 gave me decent stability. But when I compared it to the Hero 10 in certain features, as you can tell, I'm just kind of doing some examples, or I'm just kind of walking, and I'm kind of bobbing both of these cameras in my hand up and down at the same rate just to see which one shows any difference than the other. And you can tell that the Hero 10 is just really handling it much better, especially in boost mode. When it's in boost mode, it is phenomenal. I mean, look how much of a difference. And I'm moving those cameras and I'm shaking them both at the exact same rate. And you can just see that it is night and day between the two. How's this translate to kind of the stuff that we mostly do, which is biking? Well, here's an example here where I kind of just rode down some steps on my hardtail, which is a pretty jittery ride. Here's what it looks like. And here's what it looks like with the Hero 7. And now here's what it looks like with the Hero 10. That's just amazing. Trail footage is nice and smooth. It doesn't make you seasick as you're watching, as my wife would complain about. I guess the one downside is that sometimes people complain that it's too fluid and it kind of smooths out the trails and you can't really get a grasp of how technical something is because the camera just kind of glides over everything. That's a trade-off that I'm willing to deal with. I don't really do anything that's that technical anyway, so it's just nice to get some decent smooth footage for people to watch. So I would say the Hero 10 in the Hypersmooth category is hands down just a clear favorite between the Hero 7. How it compares to the Hero 9, I don't know the answer to that. If you have a Hero 9 and you have an opinion, please let me know in the comments below. How good is it? I've heard good things, so maybe if you have the Hero 9 versus the Hero 10, it might be comparable. But between the Hero 10 and the Hero 7, wow. One of the other things I wanted to compare was the color between the two. The Hero 10 has now introduced a new color profile. You usually had two modes of color. You could use GoPro color, or you could go into Pro Tune, and it would either give you a flat or color, and you could color grade in post. The one thing that the Hero 10 has now introduced is a feature called Natural. It's kind of an in-between. I guess people complained that the GoPro color was a little too vibrant, and for folks that didn't want to get into coloring their videos and edit, they've kind of made like a middle ground where it's not flat and it's not as vibrant, and kind of gives like a true color profile. And it actually works out really nicely. I've been using it a lot, and I mean I will use color correction sometimes on my videos, but if I don't have to, this is going to be a nice addition to the GoPro that I can use in my editing that'll help save some time. So this is the flat on the Hero 7. This is the flat on the Hero 10. Not a whole lot of difference. There is a slight difference, I think, between the 7 and the 10. Here's the GoPro color on the Hero 7. This is the natural color for the Hero 10. Slightly less. Now what they call the GoPro color in the Hero 10 is called Vibrant. Slight differences between the two, but I really like the natural. Alright, so frame rate. I just wanted to do a quick comparison between the frame rate, particularly the highest, if you wanted to do something in super slow-mo. For the Hero 7, 240 frames per second at the highest resolution you can do at 1080. So here's just a quick example of me just kind of hitting a golf ball in slow motion at 1080. On the Hero 10, at its highest frame rate, you can shoot up to 2.7K. So it gives you a little bit more resolution. Honestly, when I was looking at the footage, I didn't see a whole lot of difference. Again, this kind of comes into maybe a cropping factor might be beneficial to 2.7K. The one thing that I did notice that might just be an issue with my camera, but when I was shooting 240 frames per second on the Hero 7, I was getting some artifacts in the footage, and you can see here where it kind of blanks out and was giving me this gray screen. Even at the higher resolution with 240 frames per second on the Hero 10, it was smooth as butter. It was flawless. I didn't have the same issue with the 10 that I did with the Hero 7. And I suspect that has something to do with the new processor. New to the Hero 10 is a new processor. They're calling it the GP2. It's supposed to be faster. It does make the menu work a little bit quicker. I think people were finding that the tactile response on the lower GoPro sometimes was a little clunky. It's supposed to help in that regard. It definitely does boot up quicker. It does jump into record mode quicker. And I'm wondering if that processing was what was kind of helping that high frame rate not stutter or not kind of choke. It seemed like, what it was doing on the Hero 7. One of the other features that they said was new to the Hero 10 was it was supposed to have better low light capability. So I decided to put that to the test too. I use my GoPro for just about everything, indoors and outdoors. It's really the only decent camera that I have. So I just kind of set it up outside one day in the evening as the sun was setting. The sun sets on the front of my house, and I would just kind of let them both run just to see what the image was going to look like as it got darker and darker. And the one interesting thing that I noticed when I was looking at the footage, on both cameras, the skyline doesn't look like it's getting much darker, but it was actually getting fairly dark enough that street lights were starting to come on. We put our porch light on, as you can see right about here. It was the Hero 10 that did have a slight advantage in the low light compared to the Hero 7. This footage I decided to shoot while I was riding a couple of weeks ago because I was in the woods and it was an overcast day, and there wasn't the sunlight was not very bright. It was kind of dimly lit in the woods, and I wanted to kind of see what the low light feature was going to do on the trail with some low light conditions. And I think it still looks pretty good. One of the new features also on the Hero 10 is they put a protective film across the screen. I think they call it like a hydrostatic coating or something that kind of wicks water away from the lens. I guess there was an issue of the water collecting, and people do the lick or something to kind of keep the lens from bubbling up with water. This is supposed to eliminate the need to do that. So I did some tests where I just kind of dunked each camera in the water, pulled them out to see how much water retention was on the screen. This is the Hero 7. The first dunk seemed to be okay, but then it's funny, on the second dunk, the water did kind of smudge the lens a little. The Hero 10, under the exact same conditions, worked out really well. The water wicked away just like they said it would, and the image still looked great. Which led me to a second test while I was doing this, was testing the microphone. Hearing how the microphone sounds coming in and out of water. And I just wanted to see how quickly one would kind of, I know when they come out, they're always slightly muffled, but they're supposed to drain and then get back to their normal sound. Testing the two, the Hero 7 actually outperformed the Hero 10 in this category. The Hero 7 I dunked, I pulled out within like 5 or 6 seconds. The muffled sound went away, and you were able to hear the audio fairly clearly. Test of the GoPro Hero 7 coming out of water. It was submerged for about 5 to 7 seconds. Testing 1 2 3, testing 1 2 3. Microphone test GoPro Hero 7 coming out of water. Submerged from 5 to 7 seconds. Testing 1 2 3, testing 1 2 3, testing 1 2 3. The Hero 10, under the exact same conditions, actually did not clear. It took much longer for it to drain. This is the microphone test of the GoPro Hero 8 coming out of submerged water. It was in for about 5 seconds, and now I'm talking. Testing 1 2 3, testing 1 2 3, testing 1 2 3. Checking the audio, 1 2 3, 1 2 3, 1 2 3. So I would definitely give the edge to the Hero 7 when it came to that. It seemed like it drained a little bit more quickly. Maybe it's because the housing is independent of the Hero 10, where now it's all one, everything's all encased in one unit, where you still have that external housing that you use for the Hero 7. That may have made a difference. I don't know. But definitely the Hero 7 was the clear winner. This is a test of the GoPro Hero 7 coming out of water. It was submerged for about 5 to 7 seconds. Testing 1 2 3, testing 1 2 3. Now, as far as the microphone test itself, just under normal conditions, it was interesting. I felt like the Hero 7 might have had an overall brighter sound than the Hero 10, but there was something going on in the Hero 10, and I think part of that is why it wasn't as bright, that there's some background cancellation going on. On the Hero 7, if you listen on any of these shots, and if you go back to some of the shots where I was hitting the golf ball, the exterior, the crickets, and those noises are much more prominent in the Hero 7 than they are in the Hero 10. I feel like the Hero 10 was kind of filtering that stuff much better, and both cameras I just had set to auto mode. This is a test of the GoPro Hero 7. I'm about 12 inches away from it. Outside, it's a light wind, got some background traffic, the highway behind me. Got the neighbor has some construction going on. 2 houses down. Testing 1 2 3. The microphone settings are set to auto. Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Blah 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 blah. This is a microphone test of the GoPro Hero 10. It's about 12 inches away from my face. Microphone set to auto. outside. We have a light wind, have some traffic behind me. The neighbors next door, two houses down, are doing some construction. So this is a test. 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3. Blah 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 blah. Now a much debated topic between these cameras, particularly the Hero 10. Actually, it's twofold, but we'll start with the first one, which is battery life. A lot of people are complaining that the newer cameras actually have less battery life than the older ones, even though they now have a larger battery that you have to get for them. I set them up for two different records, but one at 30 frames per second and the other at 60 frames per second, just to double the frame rate to see what kind of intensity that would have, or to see what kind of stress that would have on the battery. And a funny thing happened during the 4K 30 test. At approximately 50 minutes, the Hero 10, with roughly about 11% left on the battery, overheated and shut down. And this has been a big complaint online with people talking about the Hero 10 and its overheating. And I experienced it. And the Hero 7, under the same conditions, lasted a little over an hour, like an hour and 3 minutes before its battery died and it shut down. So in that test, the Hero 7 lasted 13 minutes longer than the Hero 10 and didn't have an overheating issue. So for the next test, I tried something different because I figured if it's going to shut down at 4K 30 frames per second, it's going to do the same thing at 4K 60 frames per second. On the second test here, which you can't see, is that I have a table fan set up behind these cameras that is actually blowing on both cameras while they record. And I wanted to see if that alone would make enough of a difference. And surprisingly, it did. And it actually did for both cameras. The Hero 10, in this example, with a higher frame rate, but with a little bit of air blowing on it, did make it through the full record before the battery died at 4K 60 frames per second. It lasted just about an hour, like an hour and 1 minute before it shut down. But here's the crazy part. The Hero 7, now with double the frame rate, which at 30 frames per second lasted a little over an hour. I think it was like an hour and 3 minutes. Now with the same fan blowing on the Hero 7, it went close to 5 or 6 minutes longer than it did at 30 frames per second. So it actually lasted longer at double the frame rate, same resolution, 4K, but with a little bit of airflow, it actually increased the battery life on that one as well. So what does this mean? I mean, I know this has been an article of contention, and I know some people had realized, and I think after some correspondence with GoPro, that the camera, since it has the mounting ears built into the chassis of the camera, that there are actually some heat vents underneath of that. And people were testing the camera just sitting on a table with the ears folded up, and it was prohibiting airflow. I didn't do that. I had it on a mount. The ears were down, but it seemed like just a little bit of airflow indoors made the difference. So if you're outside, if you're riding like I do, and you have the camera strapped to your chest and air's flowing, so far I have not encountered it overheating and shutting down outdoors while using it with activity. Take that for what it is. I think, yeah, if you're going to have it sitting on a table indoors or in a hot environment, that's something you have to look out for. But I think under normal working conditions, and if the camera has some sort of air flowing, whether it's something blowing on it or if you're moving and there's airflow, I think it won't be too much of an issue.
We interrupt this program for an important news announcement.
Just when I pretty much had this video put together and I was going to tell you how crappy the battery life is in the Hero 10, just like everyone says, GoPro puts out a firmware update about 2 days ago. So I felt like I had to take a look at it, see if it made any difference before I put this video out. And here's what I've come up with. So basically GoPro has added a new feature in their menu options basically 3 modes. One is the standard mode, which I believe just gives you everything that you've currently had in the Hero 10. The second one is what they call extended battery, and the third is what they call tripod. Basically, extended battery limits some of the features that the GoPro do. Basically, frame rate. I noticed that I think you can't shoot higher than 60 frames per second in 4K. You can't shoot higher than 30 frames per second in 5.3K. Stabilization still works in that function, but I still think it's meant to be used outdoors where you're going to get some sort of airflow. The third option is tripod mode, which is basically just stripping down any feature in the camera that might cause any extra processing, heat, whatever. So it's turning off GPS, it's turning off stabilization, it's limiting the frame rate that you can shoot at. It's basically set up so you put it on a tripod to be used indoors and you're not going to do anything crazy with it. So I did a test in tripod mode to see how much of a difference it would make. And it did make a difference. So as we just learned, we can't even shoot the Hero 10 indoors at 4K 30 frames per second because it started to overheat and shut itself down. In this test in tripod mode, it made it at 4K 30 frames per second, and it went about an hour and 15 minutes, which was impressive because I think I couldn't even get that much out of the Hero 7 at 30 frames per second. When I switched it to 4K 60 frames per second, it overheated and shut down. So the overheating issue was still there, but it went significantly longer. I think at 30 frames per second, it had shut down by 50 minutes. So now it went to an hour and almost an hour and 10 minutes and almost got to the end of the battery, but it gave me the overheat warning and it turned itself off. So did the firmware upgrade make a difference? Yes and no. I think, if you're going to use it indoors, then yeah, it's fine. And if you're going to be outside and you're going to be doing some action sports, you're going to want that stabilization. That's why you're buying this camera in the first place, is for that stabilization. So you're going to want that on. It's going to need airflow. That will definitely compromise the battery life. So in that regard, it's the same old GoPro. They did add a feature that will prolong it in just the right optimal situations. So take that for what it is. And now back to our regularly scheduled programming. So conclusions. Time-lapse, TimeWarpe, I give it to the Hero 10 only by a slight degree. Like I said, the resolution was fine. It was the fact that Hero 10 had the horizontal leveling. So when I was moving the camera back and forth, you didn't see that. Resolution. Hero 7 has a great image. Hero 10 has a great image. Giving it again to the Hero 10 because of the 5.3K. If you're a person that's going to edit, definitely the 5.3K is going to come in handy there. So again, slight edge to the Hero 10. Stabilization. No brainer. I don't even see how they can even make it any better, honestly. But I'm sure they'll try. Hero 10, double check mark on that one. Low light, again, slight nod to the Hero 10. There was a difference when things got a little bit more dim. Again, thanks to probably that GP2 processor. So low light, boom, Hero 10. Let's give it to that too. Microphone. I called this one Hero 10 with an asterisk. I think overall the mic quality was a little bit better on the Hero 10 simply because it seemed to suppress some background noise a little bit better than the Hero 7 did. Although that water test was definitely a nudge to the Hero 7. But comparing the two, if you're going to pick what's more important, I think it's just the overall microphone quality versus how quickly it's going to drain coming out of water. More people are going to need it for the former than the latter. So I'm giving it to the Hero 10 with a caveat that the water does drain a little bit better out of the Hero 7 than it does on the Hero 10. And finally, battery life. In light of recent information, I debated changing my decision for this, but I think I'm still going to stick with the Hero 7 simply because the Hero 10 is still the same old Hero 10 if you want to use it under the same operating conditions that you would want to use the Hero 7. If you want to be out riding a trail, if you want stabilization on, if you want all those features, GPS, it's going to eat the battery up. So in the end, is it worth buying the Hero 10 if you have a Hero 7 or a Hero 8, perhaps a Hero 9? I can't really answer to the 8 or 9, particularly the 9, because I've heard that, you know, the stabilization is pretty good on that. If you do have a 7 or even anything earlier than that, I think the stabilization alone is enough to consider picking up a Hero 10. And that's if you need stabilization. If you're making biking videos like me, and that is something that is going to be helpful in creating a better video, then I say yes. Now, if you're just buying a GoPro to take some footage of your family or your kids in the pool or whatever, you might not need that. It's worth the upgrade alone if stabilization is an important feature that you need. And I would say get it. You could also probably look on the used market for a Hero 9, save a few bucks that way. I'm just comparing the two cameras that I have and saying that it's definitely the better camera. So if you have the money to spend, then go ahead and get it. Speaking of money to spend, so that was one of the things that I had an internal debate about with the new Hero 10. I think normally when these new cameras were released and the full retail value was in the ballpark of $399. Well, now they jacked it up to $449 for the Hero 10. And then, so it's $50 more than what you could have got the other cameras for new. And now you can buy those other cameras used and save a little bit of money. But so this one was already more expensive out of the box. And what GoPro is now trying to do is they want to entice you with their subscription service. So they say, hey, yeah, it's $449, but you can get it for $399 if you subscribe or if you buy our subscription. I'm not interested at all in buying their subscription. The features that it offers just doesn't appeal to me. I'm not going to be uploading my files to the cloud. I'm not going to be editing videos on my phone to publish right away. It's just something I don't need. So I ended up paying the full retail price for it. And let's face it, if you save a little bit of money, eventually with this subscription, they get their money back and maybe even more. Now, one thing that GoPro used to do, and I'm curious to see if they're going to do it again, that I was going to suggest to folks that are interested and maybe don't need this camera right away, is if you keep an eye on their website, sometimes they introduce like an exchange program. Either you can exchange an older GoPro, but actually I think the wording says you can exchange any digital camera. It doesn't even have to be a GoPro, as long as it has that it had a certain retail value new, and they'll give you $100 off just for trading in an older camera. I actually had like an old Kodak digital camera that I had in the ready that if this, that I was going to use for the Hero 9 and just trade it in and get the Hero 9 for $100 cheaper, but then I decided not to buy the Hero 9 because I wanted to get the Hero 10 when it came out. So I didn't take advantage of that, and I'm curious now, since they're really pushing this subscription thing, if they'll even bring that back. So keep an eye out for that. If you don't want to pay full retail, that might come out. And if not, then you'll still have the benefit of now starting to see some of these cameras come on the market used, and maybe you can pick one up then. And that's my review of the Hero 10. I hope you found it helpful. If you have any questions, please leave them below in the comments. I know there's probably some features that I missed. There's so much that this camera can do. I mean, there's like, night lapse. There's the photo part of it. I didn't really review much of the photo section because that's not what I use it for. If I want to take pictures, I have another camera. It can take pictures. It takes great pictures, but I just didn't include it in the review because I just didn't want this thing to be an hour long. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe if you like videos like this and some other videos of us, just riding around doing some old guy stuff. And until then, stay young, ride safe.